I don't feel like, for me with therapy, I don't really feel like most people, not saying all, but I don't feel like most people are really fully getting to that place.
Yeah.
Like I know with me, just to give you a little bit, like when I went through my divorce, I was really angry at this one particular guy, because he was supposed to help me and my ex, and he was like a counselor and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I felt like he just really wanted to go home at the end of the day. He didn't really want to. I'm serious. He didn't want to help us.
Mhm.
He
Mhm.
was he was just getting paid to help us. So once he was like, oh, time's up. All right, it doesn't matter what's going on. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, if you don't love your job, get another one, because this job that you're in is
Mhm.
literally life and death for people.
A lot of
Okay,
people are like that.
yeah, and I know, and that's the whole
Mhm.
point. And so,
Mhm.
right after the divorce, I pretty much I hated him. I mean, literally, if he was bleeding on the side of the road, okay, and I was the only person there to call
I
911,
know.
he would have just been dead. Okay, I mean, in fact, I might have went over and kicked him, a couple of times to make sure that
Mhm.
wound was really open.
I
Um,
understand.
and it took a while for me to get that out of my
Mhm.
system, to understand that he's just a human, and that it's not that big of a deal as far as what he's concerned. And what I should have been doing is listening to God, because God kind of had told me, to go down a different path, and I would have never
Mhm.
ran into him in the first place.
Mhm.
you know and that's why, like I say, for me, I think a lot of people are out here and they're saying, okay, well, I'm going to therapy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that,
Mhm.
but it becomes a coping mechanism. And
Yep.
then, just like with me, where I felt like God told me what to do, I feel like a lot of people, what they don't really necessarily need is therapy. What they need is discipline. They need common sense. They need home training, because at that point, many of them will never go through the pain in the first place. It's like if I tell you, don't go play with that vicious dog, but you
Mhm.
jump the fence and you go over there anyway. Now I gotta, deal with your therapy afterwards
Mhm.
for the trauma that you dealt with. But if you just
Mhm.
listen to me when I said don't jump the fence, don't go over there play with that vicious dog. In fact, go play with this puppy, this Yorkie. Okay,
Mhm.
now, but the problem is people are like, well, I don't want to play with the Yorkie. I want to go play with the Doberman. I want to go play with the pit bull that's already snarling at me. And a lot of times, because like even right now, I was watching Sherry Shepherd, um, and she was talking about the bad boy. She had something on yesterday. She was talking about the bad boy, and she was like, "Well, this is the guy we think Kiki Shepherd should be with, but it's always that bad boy. Something about that bad boy, right?" But see, the bad boy calls you therapy, so you're gonna have to have therapy after you go to the bad boy. So, like I said, we're out here trying to help women. We're trying to help men. So, from your perspective, how do women need to handle this? They have this strong lusting, this desire to go after this person that's not helping them, that will hurt them. But is it discipline they're missing? Is it common sense? Is it emotional overflow? You know, why are they going down paths that hurt them? And then once they're there in that, dealing with that therapy, dealing with those problems, how do we fix this? Because I know it's a big question, but it's like, how do we get that stopped?
Right. So it's layers. It's a lot of layers to what you just said. And I'm gonna piggyback off the therapy thing. I'm a life coach, and I try not to make it a competition thing between me and therapists. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't really speak too much on them. But I have said before, therapy isn't helping people because not everybody needs therapy. Therapy isn't helping people because now people have used therapy as an aesthetic. I can tell you I'm going to therapy so that you can look at me and think that I'm healed. I can use the
Mm-hmm.
words to seem like I'm healed, but I'm not really healing. I've told people before, as a life coach, and I'm sure even as the therapist, we cannot help you until you do the work. We can tell you the lingo, we can tell you what videos to watch. We can tell you what books to read. We can tell you all of that. But until you actually do the work, you will not be helped no matter how many sessions you go through. With a therapy, a life coach, a mentorship, church, prayer,
Mm-hmm.
anything. Until you do the work, you will not be healed. You will not get out of that, the toxic coping stage.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always go back to this. You can't
Mm-hmm.
do the work if you don't hold yourself accountable. If you aren't honest, and that's why I'm an accountability coach, it's always going to
Mm-hmm.
go back to that. No matter what, until you can look at yourself, until you can say, hey, I really like to trauma bond. I'm the issue. I
Mm-hmm.
really like to go with men who talk to me crazy. It feels good. It makes me feel safe. Until you actually realize the problem that you have and sit with yourself and you make the changes that's necessary, you gonna always be coping. You'll always be lying about how healed you are. You'll always go to them therapy sessions and leave still not getting no work because you're right. I've seen a lot of people say that the therapists do that. But you got to think the therapists talk to so many wounded people all the time, right? Even as a
Mm-hmm.
life coach, we're trained to not emotionally invest into our
Mm-hmm.
clients. So at the end of the day, they can't fully, invest
Mm-hmm.
into what you got going on. At the end of the day, it is going to be like, oh, time is up, next client, or up, time to go home, because they have to keep themselves sane as well. So it's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to do my job. I'm giving you the tools that you need. Now you need to pick the tools up and you need to go build the house. I'm not building the house for you. So I feel like that's what it is with, women, men, whoever needs healing. But I feel like that's what
Mm-hmm.
it is with a lot of women. We have the fairy tale idea of what we
Mm-hmm.
want the man to do or what we want him to look like, and we chase that idea. And in the moment of chasing the idea, you're finding yourself with all the wrong men. You're finding yourself
Mm-hmm.
constantly choosing because you're trauma bonding. And until you go research trauma bonding on your own, until you actually relate to it and put yourself in it and see how you are trauma bonding, you just gonna be like, oh yeah, they say I'll be trauma bonded, but I don't think so. This man, he paid my bills. He bought me, he got my hair done. So you're gonna always make an excuse to not look at
Mm-hmm.
self.
Okay, I love that. But why do you think it takes so long? Because I do think a lot of women kind of quote unquote wake up and they do start taking accountability. They do
Mm-hmm.
start saying, well, hey, maybe it's me. But I know for a lot of men's perspective, what's frustrating is that they seem to figure this out mid 30s,
Yes.
or early 40s. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of times by then, men are like, well, I liked you when you was 28, but
Yeah.
now that you're 40, I mean, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
So why do you think, especially with the internet and everybody talking about this, why do you think it's taking so long, even for the younger women,
Mm-hmm.
to kind of figure this out quick?
It's taking long because the information is there. The women
Hmm.
who are holding you accountable, the women who are teaching you how to be feminine, the women who are teaching you how to manage your money, it's there. The information is there. We got information that our ancestors never had access to. So there's no excuse for us to still be how we are, right?
Hmm.
The problem is we're not going for the information. We're going for what feels good. The
Hmm.
information is for our good, but it don't feel good. So we're not going
Hmm.
for that. So we're going for what feels good. And a lot of times what feels good is not for our good. So we're going towards content that's bashing men. We're going towards women groups that are telling you like, girl, you the prize. You the prize. You ain't got to do X, Y, and Z. You the table. He needs to
Hmm.
do, A, B, and C. Like we're going toward these type of topics because they feel good, but they're not the reality that you need that's for your good. And that's why it is taking us longer. So when women go through all this getting beating themselves down, because again, ain't nobody forcing you to go that route. You're going that route because you want to go that route because it feels good. So when you're done beating yourself up, going through all the wrong paths, then it's like, oh my God, I'm tired. Well, maybe I should go try that other part that don't feel good. Because maybe eventually it will be for my good. And then unfortunately it means it's later on in life that we figure that stuff out.